Howdy, y'all. Welcome back to another episode of How Can It Be with Allie Johnson, and it's just me. Howdy. Hope today is going sweller than ever, and I'm so glad that you chose to let me be a part of it. I was thinking before I started filming just kind of about the days that led up to today and just the events of today leading up to me getting here and filming today have just been kind of hectic. And I just think that that is kind of true for life sometimes. Sometimes life is hectic. Sometimes things are stressful and life just feels kind of bad. And I think that it has been helpful for me to remember that that doesn't change the love that God has for me and the love that will forever and always be so readily available for me to experience. So thanks for being here. Regardless of what's happening in your day today. It's exciting to remember that God is here and He always has been and He always will be. So even if today has been a hard one, it can be better just because you remember that He is in it with you and you're not alone and you were never meant to be. So if you're new here, this podcast is all about glorifying God in the everyday good, the bad, and the in-between. We start out every single episode the same way, just by talking about a little way that we've seen Christ in our life the last week or so. And I think my Jesus moment this week, honestly, was on Thursday. I woke up, and Thursday was a few days ago, but I woke up and I was just sad. I woke up, I got in a fight with my mom, and I felt like a bad kid, and I hate making anybody feel bad. And so I was beating myself up and I was stressed on top of it, and it just was like a doomsday. That was truly it. And I felt like there was nothing that could be done to save it or to bring it out of its gloom. And I had a day full of clients in the salon, and I went and I did my first client, and honestly, the entire way to the salon, I cried. And I walked in and my client probably was like, oh my gosh, who literally beat my hairstylist up? Because I looked terrible. And while my client was processing, I went in the back room and I cried again. And I literally just cried off and on the entire day. And the sweet thing is, by the end of the day, I had no more tears left to cry. So joy. I also had a horrible headache. But I was looking back at my day at the end of the day and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so lucky that the clients that I had today are some of my most chill clients, some of my most understanding clients. And then also one of my friends brought me some Chick-fil-A halfway through my day. And I got a text from my mom telling me that she still loved me even though we fought. And I got to talk with one of my clients about Jesus. And I just was looking at the day after the fact, and I just felt so grateful that I was able to have those happy moments, even though if you would have asked me at any point during the day, I was having a bad day. And I went through my camera roll that night. I was just honestly, the thing is, I'm going to be scrolling through my camera roll more than I scroll through Instagram. And so I was just looking through my day and I was like, whatever, I saw a picture that I sent to my mom after our phone call in the morning where we fought. And I sent her a picture of my mascara that I slept in the night before streaming down my cheeks because I felt bad that we fought. And then I was going through my camera roll and I saw this picture that I forgot that I even took. And it's this little sticky note that I saw in the break room of my salon. I went back, and while I was crying, somebody had stuck a sticky note on the washer and dryer that we use to wash all of our loads of towels and capes and stuff for the salon. And on the sticky note, it said, "You're killing it, cutie." And I took a picture of it, honestly, because it made me mad. And it also just made me kind of think, like, how many times in my life am I doing bad or, like, having a bad day and somebody, like, tries to help me and I'm like, it makes me irritated. And I'm like, oh, just let me actually have a bad day, please. Like, let me just, like, experience this. Like, I already decided today's going to be a bad day. And then something like that happens and I'm like, I guess it's not the worst thing. It's not the worst day ever. Like, I guess, like, there is still, like, good things that are coming my way and, like, happy things that I can experience. And I guess, like, if nothing else, like, that is sweet that this is my Jesus moment, you know? Because I think, and I never want the people that listen to this podcast to get under any sort of impression that I'm perfect. Because you know what? I think a reason why I had a little bit of a tougher week this last week and why I had that hard of a day is because I forgot, honestly. Like, I let myself get so busy to the point where I decided I was too busy for God. And I just want people to know that, like, that is the person that is having a Jesus podcast, a full-on Christianity-based podcast. Like, I hope you never think that I have it all figured out. I hope you never think that I'm doing everything perfectly, because I am not. And you know what? That's actually really hard for me sometimes, because even though I know that I'm not supposed to be perfect and that is not what God intended when he created me, was for me to be perfect, I still try to be. And you know what? I think sometimes I have weeks like this last week where it doesn't feel like I'm killing it, you know? And I think sometimes the way that I am, at least, like, I punish myself if I haven't been doing things perfectly, especially with the podcast. Like, I want to be able to be putting myself in a position where I can, like, receive the right things and, like, know the right direction to take each episode and be able to be living my life in a way that, like, is going to give me experiences that I can share that will help enrich testimonies of whoever listens. And I forget that, like, it's actually not about me. Like, this podcast is all about glorifying God in the everyday good, the bad, and the in-between. And I forget sometimes to do just that, because I'm really good at glorifying him in the good in my head. Like, I'm really good at being like, oh my gosh, that was awesome. Like, thank you so much, Heavenly Father. Like, you know I love that. Thanks for letting that happen. Thanks for all the blessings that are happening in my life right now. And maybe I'm even good at recognizing him in the in-between, you know? Because I love looking for the silly, unexpected ways that maybe he's a part of my day. But something that's really hard for me is glorifying him in the bad. And it makes me think, like, there was a few years ago, right after my dad died, I got asked to go and speak at this thing. And I was like, what the heck? Like, why do they want me to speak at this, you know? And I felt so unqualified. And I went and I spoke. And towards the end of what I was speaking about, I just said, what does glorifying God look like, right? And I went through and I listed a bunch of different things. And I remember one of the things was, sometimes all that you can do in glorifying God is laying in your bed at the end of the night and thanking him that that day is over and that you have another chance to try again the next day. I think another thing I said was, like, sometimes the only thing I can glorify God about is that I have literally $0 in my bank account and I go to Cafe Rio and I have enough points to be able to get me a free meal. It's little things like that. Like, this last week, I discovered that Del Taco, you can get 6 value tacos after 9 p.m. for $3.28. And I did that 3 times this week. And sometimes that's the only thing I have to glorify God about, is the fact that I am getting 6 tacos for $3.28. And maybe I am getting very ill in my belly because that is what I'm consuming past 9 p.m. Maybe that's why I'm not having a six-pack yet. Oh, that's really hard. It's really difficult. But in that same way, it's like it's all in perspective. Like I could look at that and be like, I can't believe I'm eating such crap like that at 9 p.m. Like that's why I suck, Or I could be like, thank heavens that God knows that sometimes the only good thing in my day is going to be 6 value tacos at 9:45 p.m. And I just am so grateful that I believe in a God who lets me choose and who gives me little things every day that I can glorify him about. And in the same way, like there are going to be whole entire weeks where truly like maybe me just barely saying that whole thing about value tacos, I think that's the first time I realized that that is something I could glorify God about. And you know what that means? That means after this, I'm going to be having a little business meeting with him, and I'm going to let him know I'm grateful for that. Because the thing is, I'm not sure I did. I'm not sure that I really spoke with him as much as I would have liked to this last week. And the thing is, that doesn't feel awesome for me to say right in front of a camera of people who maybe are looking to me because they think that I have it figured out. And I'm so sorry if me telling you that I don't have it figured out makes you want to listen less. But I hope it does the opposite. I hope it helps you remember that even the people that you're listening to on podcasts, even the people that you think have it figured out, really don't. And everybody has bad days. Everybody has hard weeks. And there will always be a reason. You can always think up something in the grand scheme of things. You can always think of a reason to not glorify God. But I think that's the sweet thing that I'm experiencing about having this podcast is that I get to see, even in a week like this last week, I get to come and I get to sit down and I get to realize that even in me deciding that this last week was bad, it was actually full of goodness because of a Father who is good. And I'm lucky that I am, in a sense, forced to sit down and really pick apart my week to be able to find those moments. And me and my producer were talking right before we filmed, and he sent me this little quote that I love so, so much, and I just think it's so true, and it's by this person. I think it's a guy. Yeah, I feel like this is a guy, but his name's Jenkin Lloyd Jones. And it says this: anyone who imagines that bliss is normal is going to waste a lot of time running around shouting that he's been robbed. The fact is that most putts don't drop. Most beef is tough. Most children grow up to just be people. Most successful marriages require a high degree of mutual toleration. And most jobs are more often dull than otherwise. Life is just like an old-time railroad journey. Delays, sidetracks, smoke, dust, cinders, and jolts, interspersed only occasionally by beautiful vistas and thrilling bursts of speed. The trick is to thank the Lord for letting you have the ride. And what's sweet is I copied and pasted the quote in just my big long note that's full of like different quotes in my notes app. And what's sweet is right below that, there is a little quote that says, "Face the future as cheerfully as possible." And I just think that all ties together so much. Like in weeks that feel bad, in months that feel bad, in years that feel bad, walking with Christ and believing and trusting in God's plan for you is a reason to have cheer, a cheerful spirit, and hope. And I think that sometimes we're expecting bliss, just like this quote says. We see so much in social media all around us, all these people who seemingly are living colorful and eventful lives every day of their life. And I think social media is getting a little bit better at talking about the fact that that's not real, but also only to some extent. Because the thing is, nobody wants to admit that maybe their life has been dull for a while. Maybe they've just been going through the motions. Maybe they've been just okay. Maybe they're not doing inherently bad, but they're for sure not doing great. And I think sometimes your friends are off on some excursion in Greece, and you are sitting in Minneapolis at your same 9-to-5 desk job for the 85th week in a row, and you're taking no sick days. And it feels like almost you have this feeling in your heart of like, okay, well, like, when's it gonna be my turn? Like, when is my good life coming? And what I love about this quote is remembering that, like, you're living the good life already, not because of what's happening in your life, but because of who holds it. And there's another quote that just came to my mind too, but it says, I trust in the next chapter because I know the author. And I think that that's so true too. Like, in the same way that we can be looking around and being like, and look at what they're doing and look at all the amazing things that are happening for them right now. We could also say, I wonder what bad thing might happen to them next. Because the thing is, surely everybody will go through trials. And I think the thing is, in the same way that we want our big, beautiful, glorious things to be felt, the same way as the next person, I think sometimes we also think that maybe because somebody's going through a trial that seems bigger than ours, that ours isn't big, or that our hard isn't really that hard. And I just believe in a Father who never meant for it to be a tally system, who's not comparing and contrasting the difficulties of every single circumstance, because he knows that if something is hard for you, it's just hard. And it's okay for something to just be hard. And if you feel like you're in that time of your life, where for me, I for sure have felt like, and I think that that's why sometimes I make my hard harder, is I convince myself and I go down this rabbit hole of like this feeling of guilt for not feeling more grateful for my life. Because there's so many blessings that I know that I have. But it's sweet to know that there's a God that's so well aware of every single aspect of your life that he's going to be well aware that sometimes even if you do have a new car, even if your house is paid off, even if you're in your dream relationship, you can wake up and still have a bad day. But I think the trick is, exactly like this quote says, the trick is thanking God for letting you experience it regardless of what's going to happen, for letting you have the experience of life, for letting you feel the deep lows and the mundane days, so that you might be able to rejoice in the colorful and exciting ones, but also so that you might see that the everyday is so much more colorful, not because of the events, but because of the creator of them. And I just have such a testimony of that. I know that he intended for this life to be enjoyed. And I love that this quote says that it's meant to be a ride. Not because it's supposed to only be difficult, but because it's meant to be enjoyed. And the funnest, best roller coasters at Disneyland would not be fun at all if they didn't have the breathtaking drops, if they didn't have the nauseating jolts. And I think that that's so true with life. And we all really do need to remember that there's somebody in control of the ride. And so maybe if it feels like you're on the Incredicoaster at Disneyland and somehow the ride just broke right as you're doing the loop-de-loop and you're hanging upside down on the Incredicoaster and all the blood is rushing to your head and you're feeling like death is on, like you're on death's doorstep. It's so exciting and wonderful to remember that there is a creator of the ride and there is somebody who knows the ride like the back of his hand that is speedily coming to rescue you and to help you get to the other side of that wild and crazy ride, who will help you even in moments where you're in misery, be able to see of his miraculous wonder and ability. And he can do that, and he will. He will do that. And I think that it's our job to make him the focus and to thank him for the experiences that he does give us and to speedily repent when we forget him and we forget to do life with him. Because the thing is, he wants to do life with you. So don't let your wrong turn, don't let your wrong decision keep you away from a Father who has his arms stretched out to hold you and to love you and to bring you right back on his wonderful ride of life. I think that's a good enough reason to talk about him every single day, all of the rest of your days. And in making Christ a part of your everyday life and making him an everyday topic, I know that you will be able to experience the joys that come from riding the beautiful ride of life with him. And I hope you remember that I love you so much and he loves you more. I'll see you next week. Bye.